The forgotten anniversary Olivia Bennet traced her finger around the rim of her water glass, watching as the candlelight flickered across the white tablecloth. The restaurant hummed with conversation and the gentle clink of silverware against fine china. Le Jardin was the most exclusive restaurant in the city, requiring reservations months in advance. Olivia had mentioned it once, in passing, during a conversation about places they'd love to visit someday. The fact that Nathan had remembered and secured a table for their third anniversary had seemed like a beautiful gesture. Had seemed. Past tense. She checked her watch again. 8:47 p.m. Nathan had stepped away to quickly say hello to some business associates he'd spotted at the bar nearly an hour ago. Their appetizers had arrived and been cleared. The waiter had refilled her water glass 4 times, each visit accompanied by an increasingly pitying smile. "Would you like to order, or are you still waiting?" he asked gently. "Just a few more minutes, please," Olivia replied, the rehearsed response feeling hollow on her lips. From across the dining room, she could see Nathan, his tall frame leaning against the bar, laughing loudly with 3 men in similar charcoal suits. His phone was pressed to his ear, and he gestured animatedly with his free hand. Not once did he glance in her direction. This wasn't the first time Nathan Harrington had left her waiting. As the CFO of a rapidly expanding tech company, he wore his constant availability like a badge of honor. "They need me," he would say, after interrupting yet another date night for a critical call. Olivia had always nodded understandingly. After all, ambition was what had attracted her to him initially. His drive, his confidence, the way he commanded attention when he entered a room. When they'd first met at a charity gala 3 years ago, Nathan had been captivated by her. Olivia, a children's book illustrator with a quiet passion for her art, had been surprised by his interest. He'd pursued her relentlessly, sending flowers to her tiny studio, taking her to exclusive restaurants, introducing her to his influential circle. She'd been swept away by the whirlwind romance, but somewhere along the way, the attention had shifted. The calls and texts during her workday to check in had dwindled, then disappeared. Date nights became working dinners where she sat silently while he networked. Weekends were sacrificed to emergency meetings. Their apartment, his apartment technically, into which she'd moved, began to feel like a hotel they both occasionally visited. "It's just temporary," he'd assured her last month when she'd finally voiced her concerns. "Once this merger goes through, things will calm down." I promise. She'd believed him. She always did. Olivia sipped her water and considered the emerald dress she wore, purchased specially for tonight. The color chosen, because Nathan had once mentioned it, brought out the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. Her chestnut hair was styled in loose waves, the way he preferred. Even her perfume was the one he had gifted her on their last anniversary. Everything about her this evening had been curated for his pleasure. And he wasn't even looking. The waiter approached again, sympathy evident in his expression. "Perhaps a glass of wine while you wait?" he suggested. Olivia hesitated, then straightened her shoulders. "Yes, actually. I'd love the Cabernet you recommended earlier." As the waiter departed, Olivia caught a glimpse of herself in the mirrored wall across the room, a solitary figure at a table for 2, smiling bravely. For a moment, she barely recognized herself. When had she become this person, this afterthought in someone else's busy life? Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Daniela. "How's the big anniversary dinner going?" "Did he love your dress?" Olivia stared at the message, uncertain how to respond. Should she admit the truth, or maintain the illusion that everything was perfect? Before she could decide, she noticed Nathan heading toward a different exit with his colleagues, briefcase in hand, without so much as a glance in her direction. He had forgotten she was there. The realization struck her with surprising clarity. This wasn't a temporary situation. This was who they had become. As the waiter returned with her wine, Olivia felt something shift inside her, a small, quiet revolution beginning in her heart. Intermezzo. Strangers to allies. The Cabernet was excellent, rich and complex with notes of blackberry and cedar. Olivia took another sip, allowing herself to savor it rather than rushing as she typically did when dining with Nathan. His impatience with unnecessary lingering had trained her to eat quickly, speak concisely, and never waste time on pleasantries. "Excuse me," came a voice from the table to her right. "I couldn't help noticing you're drinking the Laurel Glen Vineyard Cabernet. Is it as remarkable as everyone claims?" Olivia turned to see a woman about her age with cropped silver hair and striking blue eyes. She wore an impeccably tailored suit and a warm smile. "It is, actually," Olivia replied, surprised at how easily the words came. "Would you like to try it?" The woman's eyebrows rose. "That's incredibly kind of you. I'm Penelope, by the way. Penelope Zhao. Olivia Bennett." Within minutes, Penelope had joined Olivia at her table, bringing along her dining companion, her cousin Julian, a music professor with kind eyes and an infectious laugh. What began as a simple wine recommendation evolved into a vibrant conversation about everything from Olivia's illustrations to Julian's orchestra to Penelope's work as a curator at the city's modern art museum. "Wait, you illustrated the Moonbeam Chronicles?" Julian exclaimed. "My students adore those books. The way you capture light and shadow is extraordinary." Olivia blushed. "Thank you. That series was a labor of love." "You have a gift," Penelope said, studying Olivia with genuine interest. "Have you ever considered exhibiting your original works? Our museum has a wonderful space for emerging artists. When was the last time someone had shown such interest in her work?" Nathan had attended her book launch 2 years ago, but had spent most of the evening on his phone. He'd never once asked about her creative process or inspirations. As the evening progressed, their table expanded. The chef, impressed by Olivia's knowledge of French cuisine, stopped by to discuss his latest creations. An elderly couple celebrating their 50th anniversary shared stories of their enduring romance, describing how they still discovered new things about each other after decades together. "The secret," the woman confided, her eyes twinkling, "is to be seen, really seen, and to see the other person just as clearly, even when it's difficult." Olivia felt a pang in her chest. When had Nathan truly seen her last? By the time the dessert menus arrived, their table had become the liveliest in the restaurant. Olivia found herself at the center of this impromptu gathering, sharing stories and laughing more genuinely than she had in months. "You must join us for the gallery opening next Friday," Penelope insisted, sliding her business card across the table. "Bring your portfolio. I'm serious about your work." "And my chamber orchestra is performing Vivaldi next month," Julian added. "I'd love for you to come." The waiter approached with a concerned expression. "Miss Bennett, it's been nearly 3 hours. Would you like me to box up a meal for you to take home?" 3 hours. Nathan had been gone for 3 hours without a word, a text, or even a glance back. "Actually," Olivia said, making a decision, "I think I'll order dinner now. I'm having too wonderful an evening to leave." The waiter's face brightened. "Excellent choice. May I suggest the chef's special? He's prepared something extraordinary tonight." As the evening deepened into night, Olivia realized something profound had shifted. These strangers, now rapidly becoming friends, saw her more clearly in a few hours than Nathan had in months. They asked questions about her dreams, listened to her answers, and shared their own stories with genuine openness. "You know," Julian said thoughtfully as they shared a decadent chocolate souffle, "music teaches us that the rests, the silences between notes, are just as important as the sounds themselves. Without them, music becomes noise. But some people never learn to appreciate the quiet moments." Olivia thought about all the quiet moments Nathan had filled with calls, emails, and networking. All the spaces in their relationship that should have been filled with connection, but instead echoed with absence. "I think," she said slowly, "I've been playing the wrong symphony." Penelope squeezed her hand. "It's never too late to change the composition." As midnight approached, Olivia's phone remained silent. No text from Nathan asking where she was, no missed calls, no acknowledgement of their anniversary or his disappearance. In his absence, she had found something unexpected. Herself. Crescendo. The revelation. The restaurant had nearly emptied when the maitre d' approached their table with a flustered expression. "Miss Bennett, Mr. Harrington has returned and is asking for you at the bar." A strange calm settled over Olivia. 3 months ago, even 3 hours ago, she would have rushed to Nathan's side, accepting whatever excuse he offered. But now, surrounded by new friends who valued her presence, she felt oddly untethered from that impulse. "Thank you," she replied. "Please let him know I'll be there shortly." Penelope studied Olivia's face. "Would you like us to wait?" "No," Olivia said with a small smile. "But thank you for asking." "For everything, actually. This evening turned out to be exactly what I needed, just not in the way I expected." After exchanging numbers and warm hugs, Olivia watched her new friends depart. Then, smoothing her emerald dress, she approached the bar where Nathan stood impatiently checking his watch. He looked up with relief. "There you are." "You wouldn't believe the opportunity that just fell into my lap. Harrison wants to bring us into the Westlake deal. This could mean millions for the company." His eyes were bright with excitement, not a trace of remorse visible. "Ready to go?" "I've got early meetings tomorrow." Olivia studied him as if seeing him for the first time. His perfectly styled hair, the expensive watch, the way he glanced at his phone even as he spoke to her. He was objectively handsome, undeniably successful, and completely oblivious to the devastation he'd caused. "Our anniversary dinner was 3 hours ago, Nathan." His expression flickered briefly. "Right, sorry about that. These guys are major players, couldn't exactly walk away. You understand?" He reached for her arm. "We'll do something special this weekend to make up for it. The same promise, different day." Something inside Olivia, something that had been quietly building strength all evening, finally solidified into certainty. "I ordered without you," she said calmly. "Had the chef's special. It was extraordinary." Nathan's brow furrowed with confusion. "You ate alone?" "No," Olivia replied. "Not alone at all." She told him about Penelope and Julian, about the chef's visit and the elderly couple's advice. With each detail, Nathan's expression darkened. "So you just had a party at our anniversary dinner? Without me?" His tone carried an accusation that once would have made her apologize immediately. "You weren't at our anniversary dinner, Nathan. You chose to be elsewhere." He sighed dramatically. "I was working, Olivia. Someone has to pay for dinners at places like this." The comment stung, a reminder of the financial imbalance he subtly reinforced in their relationship. Olivia was successful in her own right, but Nathan's wealth existed in another stratosphere. "Is that what you think this is about? Money?" She shook her head. "Tonight showed me something important. These strangers valued my company more in 3 hours than you have in months." Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it instinctively. "Go ahead," Olivia said quietly. "Check it. It's clearly more important." To her surprise, he did exactly that, reading the message before returning his attention to her with visible impatience. "You're overreacting. It was one dinner. It's not just dinner. It's breakfast when you're on your phone. It's weekends when you're at the office. It's vacations canceled and conversations interrupted." Olivia took a deep breath. "It's a pattern of showing me exactly where I rank in your priorities." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "What do you want from me, Olivia? I'm building something significant here. I can't just ignore opportunities because it's some arbitrary date on the calendar." "Our anniversary isn't arbitrary," she said softly. "At least it shouldn't be." "Look," he said, lowering his voice to the tone he used when negotiating. "I acknowledge I could have handled tonight better. But this reaction is disproportionate. Let's go home, get some sleep, and discuss this rationally tomorrow." The old Olivia would have acquiesced. The new Olivia, the one who had spent the evening being truly seen, stood her ground. "I don't think I'm coming home tonight." Nathan's expression shifted from frustration to disbelief. "Don't be ridiculous. Where would you go? I still have my studio," she reminded him. The small apartment she'd kept as a workspace. Despite Nathan's insistence, it was an unnecessary expense. "I think I need some time to myself." For the first time that evening, Nathan looked genuinely alarmed. "You're serious?" "Completely. As they stood facing each other across this new, unexpected divide, Olivia realized something profound. The pain she'd anticipated feeling at this moment was largely absent. In its place was a strange, tentative sense of liberation, as if she'd been holding her breath for months and could finally exhale. Diminuendo. The confrontation, Olivia's studio welcomed her like an old friend. The space was small but entirely hers, walls adorned with her illustrations, shelves overflowing with art books, the faint scent of turpentine and coffee lingering in the air. The pull-out sofa wasn't nearly as comfortable as Nathan's king-sized bed with its Egyptian cotton sheets. But as she settled in, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness. Her phone had been buzzing intermittently since she'd left Nathan at the restaurant. First with angry texts demanding explanations, then with increasingly concerned messages asking where she was, and finally with something approaching an apology, though it still contained the phrase, "You're being unreasonable." Morning brought clarity rather than doubt. Olivia made coffee in her tiny kitchenette and stood by the window, watching the city awaken. For the first time in years, she had nowhere to be. No one scheduled to accommodate. No need to make herself smaller to fit into someone else's life. The knock came just after 9, 3 sharp raps that could only be Nathan. When she opened the door, he stood there in yesterday's suit, his expression a mixture of confusion and determination. "This has gone far enough," he said, brushing past her into the studio. "I've been calling all night." "I needed space to think," Olivia replied, closing the door quietly. Nathan paced the small room, his presence somehow making the space feel cramped rather than cozy. "About what? One missed dinner and you're throwing away 3 years?" "It wasn't one dinner," Olivia said. "It was the final note in a song that's been playing for a long time." Nathan stopped pacing, his expression softening strategically. "Look, I know I've been distracted lately. The Westlake deal is consuming everyone at the office. But once it's complete, things will be different." Olivia had heard variations of this promise for years. "Different deal, same outcome. Do you remember what my latest book is about?" she asked. He blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Of course. It's about animals in a forest. It's about a lighthouse keeper who guides ships through storms," she said quietly. "I've been working on it for 8 months. I showed you the illustrations. Twice." Nathan had the grace to look embarrassed. "I've had a lot on my mind. So have I, including whether I can continue in a relationship where I'm consistently an afterthought." His expression hardened. "That's not fair. I've given you everything." "Except your presence," Olivia countered. "Except your attention. Except the feeling that I matter." "Of course you matter," Nathan exploded, his composure finally cracking. "Why do you think I work so hard? The trips, the restaurants, the lifestyle, it's all for us." "No," Olivia said with sudden clarity. "It's for you. The Nathan Harrington success story. I'm just an accessory to that narrative. The supportive partner who never complains, never demands, never interrupts." Nathan stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. "When did you become so difficult?" The word hung between them, revealing more than any argument could. In Nathan's worldview, asserting her needs made her difficult. Expecting reciprocity made her unreasonable. Wanting to be valued made her demanding. "I'm not being difficult," Olivia said calmly. "I'm being honest. There's a difference." Nathan's phone rang, his special ringtone for important clients. His hand moved toward his pocket automatically before stopping, the internal conflict visible on his face. "Take it," Olivia said. "It could be about Westlake. It always is." After a moment's hesitation, he answered, turning away from her. "Harrington here. Yes, I can discuss the projections now." He covered the mouthpiece and whispered, 5 minutes. This is crucial, but Olivia knew better. 5 minutes would become 15, then 30. The pattern was so familiar she could map it with her eyes closed. As Nathan stepped outside to continue his call, Olivia looked around her studio, at the illustrations pinned to her corkboard, at the invitation from Penelope to visit the gallery, at the business cards from her new friends. In this small space that was entirely hers, she had created worlds within worlds. Characters who overcame obstacles. Stories with unexpected endings. Perhaps it was time to write her own. When Nathan returned 20 minutes later, his expression was triumphant. Good news. They've approved our initial proposal. This could fast-track everything. Olivia nodded. Congratulations! So we're good? He asked, clearly assuming their conversation had reached its natural conclusion. You'll come home? The question hung in the air between them. Olivia considered all the versions of herself she could be in this moment. The accommodating girlfriend, the silent supporter, the background character in Nathan's story. None of them felt right anymore. No, she said simply. I don't think I will. Finale. Reclaiming harmony. Autumn painted the city in amber and gold as Olivia carried the last box into her new apartment. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating hardwood floors and walls she'd already begun to adorn with her artwork. The space was modest compared to Nathan's penthouse, but it vibrated with possibility. That's the last of it, called a familiar voice. Julian appeared in the doorway, slightly breathless from the three-flight climb. Though I maintain that no one needs quite so many books about obscure painting techniques. Olivia laughed. Says the man with an entire collection of Baroque musical manuscripts. The months following her decision had unfolded like a story she couldn't have imagined writing. The initial pain and adjustment, the nights questioning her choice, the awkward division of shared possessions, Nathan's alternating anger and attempts at reconciliation had gradually given way to something unexpected. Growth. Penelope had made good on her promise, featuring Olivia's original illustrations in a New Voices in Visual Storytelling exhibition. The exposure had led to commissions beyond children's books, magazine covers, a graphic novel collaboration, even a mural for the Children's Hospital. Where do you want this? Asked Penelope, entering with a potted fiddle leaf fig. And before you say anything, yes, it's a housewarming gift, and no, you can't refuse it. Olivia directed her to a corner near the window. It's perfect. Thank you. As they unpacked, conversation flowed easily among the three friends. Julian described his latest composition, inspired partly by Olivia's illustrations. Penelope shared gossip from the art world and updates on the museum's upcoming season. Their friendship had deepened over shared meals, cultural excursions, and late-night conversations about everything and nothing. They had seen her, really seen her, during that pivotal dinner, and continued to see her every day since. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of more friends, colleagues from a graphic design studio where Olivia now taught workshops, neighbors from her old building, writers she'd collaborated with. Soon her new home hummed with conversation and laughter. Amid the celebration, Olivia slipped away to the small balcony overlooking the park. Leaning against the railing, she breathed in the crisp autumn air and reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Nathan had made one final attempt at reconciliation 2 months ago. Over coffee at a neutral location, he'd presented a familiar mix of promises and subtle blame. I miss you, he'd said, looking genuinely bereft. The apartment feels empty without you. I miss parts of us too, she'd admitted. But not who I became when I was with you. I've changed, he'd insisted. The Westlake deal is done. I've delegated more, created boundaries with work. But even as he spoke, his eyes had drifted to his phone when it lit up with notifications. Some habits were too deeply ingrained to break. I hope you find happiness, Nathan, she'd said sincerely. But I've discovered I need to find mine on my own terms. A gentle tap on the balcony door pulled Olivia from her memories. Thomas stood there holding 2 glasses of champagne, his warm brown eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled. They'd met at one of Julian's concerts 2 months ago, a children's book author looking for an illustrator for his next project. Their professional collaboration had evolved naturally into friendship, then gradually into something more. Unlike the whirlwind that had characterized her beginning with Nathan, this connection developed slowly, thoughtfully, built on mutual respect and genuine interest. Penny for your thoughts? Thomas asked, handing her a glass. Just reflecting, Olivia replied, accepting both the champagne and his presence beside her. A year ago, I never would have imagined being here. Thomas nodded. The best stories often take unexpected turns. Inside, their friends had gathered around Olivia's dining table, laden with potluck contributions. Julian was demonstrating something on his violin, while Penelope laughingly attempted to conduct. The scene radiated warmth and belonging. To new beginnings, Thomas said, raising his glass. Olivia clinked her glass against his, and to unexpected endings that turn out to be beginnings in disguise. As they rejoined the gathering, Olivia felt a profound sense of gratitude. That painful anniversary dinner, the night she'd been left alone, had ultimately given her the greatest gift, the courage to reclaim her story. She had turned the tables indeed, not out of vengeance or spite, but from a place of self-respect and newfound clarity. The symphony of her life now played in a different key, one that resonated with her true nature, composed of harmonies she had chosen herself. And in the end, it wasn't about finding someone who would never leave her waiting. It was about becoming someone who knew her own worth too well to wait indefinitely. That night, surrounded by genuine connection, Olivia understood the truth. Sometimes being left alone is exactly what you need to find your way back to yourself.